Okay, I've kind of given up getting dog hair off me when I go to film these videos because it's basically an impossible task. But hey guys, welcome back to the channel. The other morning I went out for a morning of photography at a coastal spot that I've never been to before. Looked pretty nice on Google Maps, so that was enough to convince me to go out. And it was a very harsh blue sky, sunny, warm kind of day. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the photos I took on that morning, while also hopefully giving you a bit of an insight to my process and approach when it comes to these harsh blue sky days at the coast. Plus, stick around to the end of the video where I'm going to give a very quick but powerful post-processing technique for these blue harsh days where we've got overpowering skies in our images. Upon arrival, the very first thing that I noticed were these wooden huts that were scattered up the grassy bank, and they were being very heavily side and backlit here. You'll be able to see the big shadow on the floor from the footage there, but by stepping to the side and shooting them side on, I can still catch the side of those huts, and I'm leaving a little bit of a gap where that railing comes to the end on the left hand side, so you get a little bit of a glimpse at that sea, and it's also just a little bit of breathing room for the frame as well. To the left of me in this little car park, there's some camper vans hanging out there, so I'll walk over because obviously that's going to make a nice photo, right? So I head over and just getting close enough to cut out the van on the right hand side of this one here that's nicely situated in front of the ocean. Again, just a nice minimal frame with lots of sky in there and protecting the highlights on the side of the van and still making sure we've got some of it lit up and some of it in shadow, which I think really helps to give us a bit of contrast on this day where overall everything is very bright anyway. Originally I wasn't going to get a photo of these two camper vans together as they're facing in different directions and it can look a little bit confusing and messy, although I kind of noticed that although it may not look like it on the footage, the left hand side van, the side of it is very much in the highlight, whereas the side of the right hand side van is more slightly in the shadow. I think it creates quite a nice balanced frame. Obviously the camper van on the right hand side is a bit bigger than the other one and it's further forward, so it's a little bit off dimension wise, but having that one in the shadow and the left one in the light, and then again with the pier nicely situated in the gap, I do think it makes a nice pleasing frame. Okay, so these next few images here I've thrown in for more something to note than to really show off much about the images, because here I'm taking a photo with those two guys just in the background there, and right on the very end where they're stood in the shadow there, so they don't really pop out much. But what I want you to look at here and on the next couple of examples as well is the shadow and light hitting the steps, right? And this goes to show if you're really looking around in your environment and what's in front of you, you can find like leading lines in basically anything, because with leading lines we often think of, I don't know, train tracks or big rows of trees and stuff that are very obvious. But with these frames, imagine if there was maybe a surfer or someone on the beach or a boat on the beach just right at the end of those lines, we would then have a really fantastic frame. So pretty self-explanatory this one then. Stepping back from where I was just stood, we've got this road that's sweeping around the corner and the cliff there that's going up in the distance, and I hang around here for a bit, and luckily someone actually walks down this road, which, you know, in this environment, in this position was very lucky. Light bouncing off that road, casting the guy's shadow, and yeah, it's really nice, and I think having that guy included in the shot really brings it into its own. So just a minor mistake I made on this morning. The night before I forgot to check if my action cam was fully charged. It was not. It had about 5% battery when I got there. So unfortunately for the rest of the footage, I don't have action camera footage, but I did film B-roll little clips just to show you what I'm looking at and the area, so that you get a bit more of a sense of where I was, and hopefully that still does as much justice as the action camera does. But yeah, sorry about that. I'll be more careful in future. So having seen that guy coming down the road, I decided to walk up the road, being the curious photographer that I am. Unfortunately, there wasn't really much up there. I did think it might make a nice look down in the distance with the road leading down, but there wasn't really an angle where you could get that road sort of sweeping down. So I do take this frame here where I've included a bit of a metal hut on the left hand side, and we do get those camper vans in the distance as well. I think it's a nice shot just like to show you the area, but not necessarily too interesting. I come back to these huts that I photographed at the very start of the day, and a car's parked up there now, which looks really cool to me because the way the huts are looking down, the car is looking in the same direction. I like the fact that the blue sky is bouncing off the bonnet of the car here and then kind of relaying back into the side of the hut, which has got that blue fabric on. And then of course the ocean is blue. So we've got some really nice color harmony going on here with the orangey floor and the green grasses as well. So to the left of the pier that we saw in the background of some of the photos prior to this, we've got this lovely stretch of beach. It's not huge, but it's beautiful. And we've got that cliff edge in the background as well. So I'm just keeping my eye on these two people that are walking separately, but they do come together in the end. And I capture this image again, using them quite low down in the frame, which really gives us that sense of being small in the frame and that vast sort of area above them with the blue negative space. So you'll probably notice from most of the photos and most of the footage in this video that a lot of the images are heavy on the sky. So I'm including lots of sky, and in most cases having like the landscape and the foreground sitting very low in the frame, or the subject matter sitting very low in the frame. And this is a regular approach for me on these blue sky days, because I feel like, you know, a lot of people aren't that fond of blue skies. They think they don't really look that nice in images, but for me, and you'll notice as well, I'm washing out the skies quite a lot in comparison to how rich and blue they are on the day. For me, using that blue sky as a negative space works fantastically, because when you're at the coast, there's lots of yellows, oranges and reds. You've got the beach, you've got rocks, you've got cliff edges that in a lot of cases can have those shades in them. And remember that blue, orange, yellow, they're all complementary colors. So I feel like including a lot of that sky really, really helps, and also doubles down on minimalism at the coast with lots of sky in your photograph when there's no clouds present. Works fantastically. It might not be to everyone's case, but for me, I really, really like it. I also really like this shot in black and white, so I did do a black and white edit too. And seeing the shadows on the floor here, I'm instantly thinking about capturing someone in the light as a silhouette. Now, foot traffic was really, really slow at this time of the morning, so I get this frame here, which obviously doesn't include any people, but I really, really like them heavy shadows. And we've got that lamppost in the background as well, just as a little feature. Nice white sky again, giving us that huge contrast. And then luckily, finally, some people do walk past me as I'm on the other side to where I just took that photo. Holding the dog as well, the holding hands. This is great. Probably, I think I'm going to say, might be my favorite photo on the day. We haven't got to all of them yet, but that contrast from the shadow of the wall, bringing them shadows down in post-production to really play with that, and them being a silhouette against the white sand in the background, I think it's fantastic. However, while we're on this image and this footage here, as you can see in the distance on the top of the cliff, there's a little building up there, and this originally wasn't the plan, but seeing as I was here, I thought, you know what, let's do it. Let's walk up to that building and get some photos of it. So this old building up on the cliff top here is actually an old fan house that will have played a role in the mining history of this area. The little town down below as well, where the pier was, where I was previously, huge mining history there, and there's some old train tracks that run along the cliff top. So here's the first image I shot of the building, and I believe it's the first image of the day where I've actually used a bit of heavy foreground work here, and we've got this dry muddy path leading up to the gate in the background, and then the building sitting to the right hand side of that, which makes a nice leading line up there, not necessarily straight into the building, but definitely takes you up into the frame. And the images from this area are quite hard to work with because of how much green we've got going on here, and surprisingly, despite the bright blue sky and the harsh day, the green wasn't really actually like that bright up there, as you can probably tell from the hills in the distance. So getting close up to the building now, I was actually surprised to see quite a few people hanging out up here, to be honest, but nevertheless, we grabbed some photos, and again, I'm aiming into shadow and highlight here, aiming into the shadow side of the building with the highlights on the front, giving us that nice contrast and allowing different shapes and patterns to appear. As people move about and move around, I managed to get this photo with the one person sat with their dog there. I'm not necessarily sure whether this is the type of subject where I like including a person in the frame, because it's an old building and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere and stuff. I got a really nice flat front angle shot of the image here as well. We've got some shadows just in that doorway, and some of that graffiti, unfortunately, on the building, which is a shame, does help the image because we get that green color through the windows, which again helps separation, because if that green color wasn't in there, it would be very flat. Moving in for a couple of detail shots of the building, and I really wanted a few where I'm kind of looking through and seeing the ocean in the distance, even though it's not going to play a major role. I've got these two different variants here with, again, lots of light and shadow play, lots of texture, and these would simply serve to go along with the main images. Walking back from that old building, there was loads of really great vantage points of the beach that I just walked along in order to get up to that building. And normally I'm not really a big fan of like big vantage point shots like this, but something I do look out for on these very harsh days is huge areas of dark land contrasting against lighter land, because it's going to give you a nice contrast on a day where normally it's all lit up. Very similar here, but a landscape version, if you will, further down, closer back to the pier that you can see there, and really bringing that pier into play to break up the mid-ground of the shot. But basically all the same rules applied here. Underexposed quite a lot to make sure that landscape there was pretty dark, and the distance is getting quite hazy now, which I think complements the water nicely. And we've got a few dots and specks of people on the beach down there that I feel in this case, even though they are so small, do add a little bit, because they're kind of nicely bundled together and gives you a sense of people hanging out on the beach and stuff. And then I guess a photo within a photo, this is kind of the same shot, just from right down below and much closer. So I assume they're the same people that I shot from above, but I've come down and basically got in close and almost taken the same image, but really close in. And so last couple of images coming up here for the day, I saw this danger beware of falling rock sign, which was quite close to my car actually, and it made me chuckle that there was actually a rock on the floor next to it. And you know, most people probably wouldn't even notice that, but again, these are the types of weird things I notice when I'm out taking photos. So I get a nice clean crisp one that's just including that and nothing else. Alright, as promised, for you lovely people that stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to jump on the computer behind me here and just show you a quick post-processing technique that I use. I think it's very quick and easy when you're dealing with these very strong, harsh blue skies. On days like this with harsh light, blue skies, whatever it may be, you may often find this kind of gradient that you've got going on in the sky. Now in this case, it's because the sun is coming from up here. Like I said in the video, these huts are being backlit / side lit from the sun up here, which is causing this side of the frame to be much darker because this is where the light's coming from. Dead simple. I mean, there's loads of ways you can do it, but this is the way I do it, which I think is possibly the easiest, because luminance isn't even enough here to balance it out. So I would create a radial gradient, bring this across here, start really far over to the left. So your gradient's actually starting up here, and then you can either bring your exposure or dehaze up here and just allow that to balance the sky back out with the other side of your frame. And you can come in with multiple of these if you need to, and probably bring that across and affect the middle a little bit more like that. And there you go, we have a nice balanced sky now. And the same applies for an image where, let me turn the mask off here. You'll see it's now across the top of the image, almost evenly across the top rather than just on one side, because the sun's directly behind me here. So all you have to do here is make sure that your mask is covering the whole top of the sky like this. And just remember that your mask is starting from the middle point up here. So you really want to leave that high up so that you're getting the most minimal effect, but so powerful, so easy, and can really bring out that minimal look to photos on harsh days like this. So hopefully that helped as a little bonus at the end of the video. All right, just a quick shameless plug before I finish off this video. All of the images throughout this video were edited with my import presets, the foundations collection that you can find on my website. I'll put a link in the description as well. Those 9 presets are the very first step I take on every single image I ever edit. I'll choose one and then I'll fine tune one from there. So if you are interested in any way, shape or form supporting the videos I make and helping me to continue creating content here on YouTube, then check those out. It's greatly appreciated. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. If you want to see a video just like this one, but all black and white photos, then watch this one next.